Alright, so this is going to be part 4 to What If Tanjiro Was in Black Clover. So with that being said, let's just roll the intro.
Bow in the presence of greatness. 'Cause right now that has forsaken us. You should be honored by my lateness. That I would even show up to this fake shit. So go ahead, go nuts, go.
Alright, so in the last part we had just gotten done with Tanjiro coming in at the last second to help out the Black Bulls and the Golden Dawn. Here he also sees a glimpse of Inosuke, and he finds out that they may be controlling him in some way, although it's not confirmed just yet. So we would skip a few days at this point. This would give enough time for Asta to basically heal up from his injuries, as well as letting Noel get some more training in. So basically the entire Black Bulls have a day off. It's only interrupted by Yami when a letter arrives saying that they want to congratulate those who went into the dungeon by letting them witness a Magic Night promotion ceremony. So Yami would pick out who would be going, that being Noel and Asta. As for the third member, you already know, it would be Tanjiro. Not only did he help at the end, but Yami wouldn't want Luck to go, as he would just start fights with the nobles and royalty there. So with the team picked out, this is where Finro would open the portal and they would go to the capital. In the capital, Asta would be super excited to meet the Wizard King, as this would be his first time meeting him. He would also ask Tanjiro if he's ever met the Wizard King, given his rank in the Magic Knights. Tanjiro would say that Julius was the man who saved him from becoming a prisoner. Because of his foreign language, people thought he was a spy of some sort. He also taught Tanjiro a bit of their common language. Asta hearing this, he would be super excited and he would ask him, "What is the Wizard King like?" Tanjiro would then start to tell Asta, "Where do I begin? He's very charismatic and has the power to back it up, but he's also really strange. He was really fixated on my magic, as it was unique to him. He reminded me of someone I used to know, a great man, but in different ways than you would think." This man that Tanjiro is talking about is Kaguya, which is the master to the pillars in Demon Slayer. After a while, this is when they would encounter the Golden Dawn, this including Yuno, Mimosa, and Klaus. Klaus here would formally greet Tanjiro, as Tanjiro is a higher rank than him, and they're close in age, with Tanjiro being 19 and Klaus being 20 at this time. Also, fun fact, if you're wondering the height of each of the characters, here you go. Asta himself is around 5 feet to 5'1", while Tanjiro is 5'5", Yuno being 5'7", and Klaus being 5'9". That's just to give you a little bit of perspective on their heights. Cutting back to the main story, Klaus would formally salute Tanjiro with the 3 fingers to his chest and thank him for his help during the dungeon exploration. Tanjiro would then say, "Don't worry, it's my life purpose to do such things." Klaus would then say, "I don't quite follow." Then Tanjiro would explain further. He would say, "I protect those who cannot protect themselves. In turn, they will grow stronger and do the same for others." Klaus would then compliment Tanjiro. "You may be a foreigner, but you embody what it means to be a Magic Knight." So many of you might be asking, why does Klaus know that he's a foreigner? Well, other than his name, his style, and everything like that, Tanjiro would be kind of well known between the Magic Knights as someone who ranked up really fast, because to become a vice captain, you need to be promoted. So Tanjiro would be a senior Magic Knight, I believe that's what it's called, the rank to be a vice captain, but you guys can correct me down below. But keep in mind that Tanjiro would have to essentially rank up in a little bit more than 6 months, going off the timeline that I made beforehand. Getting back to the conversation, Yuno would be interested in Tanjiro because Klaus was very demeaning towards Asta just based off the fact that he's in the Black Bulls and that he's a peasant. Yet he is showing great respect towards Tanjiro. Although he did save him at the end, it's kind of interesting. As Tanjiro would meet the others, as he didn't really have a chance to properly before, Yuno would ask him what's his story, since everyone's so intrigued by him. He would say that he is a foreigner and that 6 months ago, or around that time, he had joined the Black Bulls. Yuno is in disbelief. Seeing how Tanjiro looks, He would think that he would be a veteran in the Magic Knights, but only 6 months is such a short amount of time, and in that time he became a vice captain. Yuno would then continue, and he would say, "If you don't mind me asking, what happened to your arm and eye?" Tanjiro would reply by saying, "Let's just say I've seen my fair share of battles." Eventually they would get to the entrance of the castle. Here they would meet Julius. There, everyone would bow except for Asta and Yuno, finally seeing the person they want to become, that being the Wizard King. Eventually they're taken inside and they show off what they got from the dungeon to Julius. Here Julius would take a look at Yuno's grimoire, seeing that he unlocked the Wind Spirit Self. He would also see that Asta had gotten a new anti-magic sword. And then finally, as both of them could no longer wait, they would ask the question, what does it take to become the Wizard King? Klaus, hearing that these two are yelling at the Wizard King, would tell them to be quiet as they're being rude. That's not the way you ask a question to someone of this authority. He then answers the question for them. The Wizard King needs the trust of the people and a pure heart. But before he could go to the next point, this is where the Wizard King Julius cuts him off. He would say, "Klaus, those are all good qualities for a Wizard King, but that's not how you become one. The main and sole objective is merit, results. You need the results to back up your word. You two are young, so you have time. But in that time, you need to show results. Results that you are stronger than every other captain that we have. You need to show results that you could take my place. And everyone's competing for that seat. Just look at the rising star of the Black Bulls, Tanjiro. Not only does he have the qualities that make a good Wizard King, he's also gaining the merit to become one. If he so chooses, that is." Asta would kind of freak out and ask Tanjiro, "Are you really trying to become the Wizard King too?" Tanjiro would brush this off, saying, No, I'm just trying to find my friends and family." Then the Wizard King would continue. "You three," them being the Golden Dawn. "You may not be aware of this, but the Black Bulls used to have negative 30 stars. I know, quite a shocker. But since Tanjiro has joined them, they've pretty much evened out. Now Yuno would be thinking in his mind, as all this new information would be racing in it. He would start to think, who is this man? Why is he such a prodigy? He became a vice captain in record time, and he got the Black Bulls out of their debt. As he's thinking this, Tanjiro brings up the idea of training Asta using his new sword, because since it's smaller, the styles would be able to easily adapt to it compared to the large sword of the Demon Slayer. Like, that's the actual name of his first sword. It's called the Demon Slayer, just if you guys didn't know that. Yuno would get kind of annoyed that Asta has someone to train with, since Yuno never really had the same opportunity as Asta when it came to masters. Then the Wizard King would start to speak again. He would say, "Would you like to stay for the ceremony?" That being the promotion ceremony. Obviously they would all agree to do so, as it's a special event and the Wizard King himself is inviting them, so they would all join. Here they would see different members of different squads be promoted to the next rank. Once they're actually in the room, people would look at Tanjiro slightly, as they're still trying to be formal with this ceremony, but a lot of them don't like Tanjiro being there, especially the nobles. That's because he's a foreigner and he's excelled faster than any of them and most people in the Clover Kingdom. He's also in the Black Bulls, which also adds to the fire. With the ceremony over, this is when the banquet starts. Unfortunately, the Wizard King cannot join them. This leaves the Black Bulls and the other members of the Golden Dawn alone with all the upper ranks. The tension in the room starts to grow as pretty much everyone starts to make fun of both Yuno and Asta's group for having so much trouble during the dungeon exploration. It all comes to a climax when Solid, Noelle's brother, pours water on her. As Noelle tries to leave out of embarrassment, this is where Asta basically holds her back, saying that she shouldn't have to leave just because they're acting like trash. This would obviously get Solid and the rest of the nobles here angry and try to retaliate against Asta. Solid would try to use his water serpent to no effect, as Asta would just counter it by reflecting it back. As the fight is going on, with Asta and the Silver family going back and forth, both Noelle and Mimosa would be scared for Asta, asking Tanjiro for help, as Tanjiro would just look at the battle in a stern look, before finally speaking up and saying that he only protects the weak. He smiles at both of them and says, "This is a fight that Asta needs to do, but I will get into it if he needs the help." As the fight drags on, this is where other members of different squads would join in to put Asta in his place, and this is where Tanjiro joins the fight. Well, not exactly. He basically says that that's enough. He outranks pretty much everyone there other than the captains, but they don't really care. But Tanjiro tries to talk them down. He says, "You are magic knights. You shouldn't be abusing your power like this. It sullies the name." And he looks at Solid in particular. He says to him, "I take it that you're her brother. Older siblings are supposed to take care of their younger ones. Yet you use your power to belittle her. Why is that? You should build her up instead of breaking her down." Saying this, Tanjiro is a bit annoyed at Solid. But hearing this, Solid is angry at him. He says to Tanjiro, "I will not be lectured by a foreigner like you." And he tries to fight Tanjiro, but he gets stopped by his oldest brother, that being Noelle. Noelle says, "First, you bring shame to the Silver family by not being able to take out a peasant, and still you bring shame by talking back to a superior." Now, Noelle is only saying all this because what Tanjiro said to him really hit home. If you guys are confused at this point, it's revealed later on in the series that Noelle really does care about his sister. It's just that because of the curse that was put on his mother, he never wanted the same fate to happen to Noelle. So, in a way to stop her from the battlefield, he would belittle her and basically treat her badly so that she would not gain enough confidence to join the battlefield. Yet, despite all that, she still endured. Noelle would then continue, and he would say, "If you have a problem with my squad and how I run things, bring it up to me." And this is where Tanjiro would comply. He would say, "You need a better grip on your squad. We try to keep it civil, yet they're the first one to disrespect us." Hearing him talk back to Noelle, people would be angry. And this is where a sand mage from the Golden Dawn would try to encase Tanjiro with one of his spells, so that he doesn't make more of a ruckus. Here is where they find out why he is a vice captain and they're not. As it seems that the sand is basically surrounding him, Tanjiro uses a breath style. This time, the breath of flowers. This being the second form, Honorable Shadow Plum. It's a type of form that basically deflects things around him within a circular form, just like many other different forms do. And the way that he knows this is because one of the surviving members in Demon Slayers is Kanao, and at this point they'd probably be married, and because he knows the breath of the sun, it'd be easier to use the other techniques as they're just slight alterations to the original breath style. So he would have done this technique with only a little bit of magic because, as you guys remember, he can control the amount of magic he puts into his different forms and techniques. So the bystanders there would be kind of interested in Tanjiro as they could sense the amount of magic within attacks. And Tanjiro was basically able to disperse the Magic Knight's attack with just so little magic. Before they could discuss this further, they find out that the capital is under attack. Here is where they plan. Asta, being someone who is impulsive and wanting to help right away, does not join this meeting, instead runs off to try to save as many people as he can, while everyone else starts to plan. Now Tanjiro would have the same feeling as Asta, wanting to help people as soon as possible, but he understands that there needs to be a plan in place to make everything go smoothly. After getting the rundown of the plan, he would then quickly try to join Asta. But Asta having a head start, he wouldn't be able to find him. He would take out the zombies nearby. Now, because they're not human, Tanjiro could actually use the sharp part of his blade to actually stop him. So to get extra movement, this is where Tanjiro would use the 9th form of the Breath of Water, that being Splashing Water Flow Turbulent. If you guys remember, this is the technique that Tanjiro used against the Drum Demon, as there was no solid footing for Tanjiro in the ever-changing room. He would then combine this with another form of the Breath of the Water, that being Flowing Dance. Now he uses this against the Ball Demon, and what it does is essentially he goes in this kind of winding pattern across and basically slices everything in the way. This is where muscle memory would kick in and Tanjiro would cut off their heads, as morbid as that might sound. Now we could skip ahead, as I don't want to repeat stuff that wouldn't really change much in canon, so it pretty much goes the same as it would go in canon, just that Tanjiro is there looking for Asta but never really finds him, as he's just too preoccupied taking out the zombies. Getting back to the fight, we would see that a lot of captains and a lot of the magic knights would be teleported out of the city. This is so that the witch Catherine can come in and take everyone's magic, as well as get Fregolion alone with no help coming anytime soon. But eventually the zombies would stop, as Rades would be captured by Fregolion and Asta. This is where Catherine would make her move to absorb the youth and magic of the citizens. Here Yuno would confront her. It would go pretty much as in canon, where Yuno would lose his sight due to her curse magic, or curse ash magic I should say. And in this time where he can't see, he's getting beaten up pretty badly. Here is where Tanjiro comes in. Because the zombies are no longer a threat, he's able to look around and see if anyone is hurt, because although the zombies are no longer there, they did cause a lot of trouble. With Tanjiro seeing that Yuno's having a hard time, he would go up there to help him out. Here he would also get hit by curse magic, and this would also render his senses useless. And the interaction that would go between Catherine and Tanjiro would be one of disgust with both parties, because one is very vain and wouldn't like the sight of Tanjiro, while Tanjiro would just hate her personality and her soul, essentially making her ugly in the inside. Now, as this is happening, this is where Yuno is basically in his own mind, because he has no senses, so that means no feeling of touch, sight, smell, or hearing. But a miracle happens. Because he is a wind user, he's more connected to the mana than other types of magic. Here he could see the strings of mana, but it would be different than in canon, since there would be two strings, one for Tanjiro and the other for Catherine. He has to distinguish the two, which takes some time. But as this is happening, Tanjiro is actually defending himself quite well. Now why is that? Now this is going to be another spoiler for Demon Slayer, but if you made it this far in the series, I'm pretty sure you don't really care about that. But I'll explain it anyways. This ability that Tanjiro is using is called Transparent World. Essentially what it does is it lets the user increase their vision and their reaction time, and essentially they're able to see through people, such as their organs and veins and blood flow. This technique was originally used by the Breath of the Sun user in ways to take out Muzan, and it's unlocked by awakening your Demon Slayer mark, which Tanjiro already has. The move is also described as a supernatural ability, so this is outside the realm of magic and normal biological function. Not only that, but this was also able to give sight to blind characters in Demon Slayer, so Tanjiro would be able to use this and see the outline of Catherine as well as her organs. Thus, he'd be able to predict the movements that she would do, which is also another feature of the ability. Coming back to Yuno's mind, he would see the strings kind of being very sporadic, as if they're fighting, because that's what's happening. He then realizes what's happening and eventually grabs onto the string he senses as Catherine, because he's been around Tanjiro long enough to understand what his magic feels like, as his magic sensing is higher than normal people, given the fact that he has a 5 out of 5 in magic sensing. The fight would end up with Yuno giving the last blow to Catherine, as she's already beaten up by Tanjiro at this point. With that being done, the spell wears off and both of them are freed from the spell. Yuno would be a bit more hurt than Tanjiro at this point, since he did take a lot of hits from Catherine while basically blinded, so Tanjiro would help him get around. As this is happening, they would then hear a scream in the distance. Here they go to check it out, and only to find that the Midnight Sun has taken out Frigolion. Alright, so this is where I'm going to end the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know this took a long time to do. I've just been kind of busy and I haven't had that much time to edit, if that makes sense. But I am trying, and I hope you guys do enjoy these videos because I like making them. So with that being said, let's thank the patrons over on the Patreon. So if you want to see my videos early, you can go to my Patreon at patreon.com/ComicSansTheMan, or you can click the link in the description. There only costs $1 and you get my videos early, as well as get a chance at a free drawing that month. And the higher tier you are, the more likely you are to get that drawing. I'll show on screen and show the Patreon requests for the month of October. With that being said, let's actually thank the patrons over on Patreon. So in our gold tier we have Nippy Director, Kenny, and Dwayne Fenn. In our platinum tier we have Lyco. So if you want to join them and become a patron, the link will be in the description. One more thing before we end the video. If you made it to the end of the video, please comment down CS so I know you support the channel. So with that being said, this is going to be the video, so yeah.